So now we have our handling of our errors. What I've talked about in previous lessons is the ability to retry an observable request, which is a limitation of JavaScript promises. So by using an RxJS approach with Angular's HTTP client, we have the ability now to be able to retry any requests that do in fact fail. Now, to add this behavior is actually fairly simple, and I want to talk through a few approaches, and we're going to, in the next lesson, investigate another approach as well by using a different operator, which is going to be a little bit more complex. So to be able to retry our request, we need to use the retry operator. But before we do, we can cancel the local server, jump into our DevTools, head over to our network. We can expand this a little bit. We can then refresh. We then have a 504 error. And you can see that this only appears once. Now, I'm sure you've been offline before and a web application that you're using has then tried to reconnect, for example. So this would be a great opportunity for us to introduce a feature such as this. So at the moment, we do not have any retrying. Our application is simply loaded. The data is then attempted to be fetched from the server, but we're not actually adding any retrying capabilities. Now, by adding this, it doesn't actually directly affect any of the behavior. So what we can say is retry. So if you type out retry and hit enter, this is then going to, at the top, inside of our imports, it's going to import our retry operator. So this then enables us to specify how many times we want to retry if we see a failed request. Now we're going to add this inside our read because we're trying to load a single item, which, as we know, our read1 is using this.read under the hood. So we're going to see this work directly. So if we say we want to retry it a maximum of 2 times, if we then save this out, in our network panel, we now have 3 requests. So this is a really interesting and powerful feature that we can then add to our HTTP logic. Now, we're not going to add this to the rest of our logic just yet, because in the next video, I'm going to show you how to use retry when, and we're going to actually add a bit more logic to this to make it a little bit more complex. But for a basic retry, this is all we need to do. It's a nice and simple way that we can achieve things. And it might be that our server perhaps intermittently has a problem, and upon a retry, we were then able to successfully resolve the issue and get the data for the user. And by simply turning off our server, we can then simulate that kind of request.